What's up, guys? This week's challenge, why is good good? Comes from a reader who's familiar with the Euthyphro dilemma, has encountered it, and also seems to have encountered the Christian response to this, where you split the horns of that dilemma, you ground goodness in God's nature. But he even has a problem with that solution, and this is what he says. What I'm trying to say is that if good is inherent in God's nature, then by what standard does he see that his nature is good? A self-existing standard doesn't seem reasonable to me anymore because it deprives itself of meaning. Okay, first step in this. Let's just be clear on what we mean by God's nature. One of our commenters, Erky S, I think that's how you pronounce it, says, well, look, when we talk about God being good, we are simply, offering a tautology. We're not offering anything meaningful. It's simply saying, if God is good and good is God's nature, then God is God, right? Well, that's not what we mean when we say God is good. What we mean is that when we talk about the nature of God, we're referring to all of his essential properties. Okay, so we're adding information here. When we say God is good, we're saying goodness is an essential property of God. Okay, and he has more properties than just goodness. And so God's nature ends up being the good, meaning it is the standard of goodness. It determines what goodness is. It just simply is the standard. Now, it sounds like our reader here has a problem with this because he says a self-existing standard doesn't seem reasonable to me anymore. Well, let me try and offer a way forward here. Let's just take God out of the equation. All right. It seems to me that everybody has this grounding problem. So let's just take the atheist. The atheist also, if he wants to be a moral realist, right? If he wants to say they're objective moral standards, he's also got this grounding issue and is also going to be faced with some kind of Euthyphro dilemma, right? So let's say the skeptic says, well, there's some kind of Platonic good, right? That is the standard. Well, and that's what grounds goodness for him. Well, we could ask the question that's being offered here is, well, why is the good the good? But that just doesn't seem to make sense. It seems to kind of be a nonsensical question. Why is the good the good? And here's what I'm getting at. I think ultimately all of us are going to have to arrive at a sufficient stopping point. So whether you're the skeptic or the atheist or the believer on this question, if you want to be a moral realist and offer grounding for your view there, you're going to have to come to an ultimate stopping point. And for us, for the theist, we're saying God is that ultimate stopping point. Now, it's not just arbitrary. We're not just saying just because we say so. We're saying that this kind of stopping point does explain a lot. But if you want to say, well, that's simply arbitrary, well, guess what? That charge is going to then we're going to be able to level that charge against anybody who has a ultimate stopping point, whether it's a Platonic good or whether it's, grounding it in evolution, whatever it might be, you're going to have this dilemma. So all of us are going to have what we might call metaphysical ultimates. These would be explanations that we would say are self-sufficient not explanations are self-sufficient, but these are going to be things that we would offer as self-sufficient or self-explanatory. Now, the reader says he has a problem with a self-existing standard. Well, if that's the case, you don't just have a problem with God, but anyone who offers a metaphysical ultimate, whatever that might be. And look, you don't just have a problem when it comes to the question of goodness, then. You have a problem with God himself, because God is the uncaused cause. He is self-existent. That is part of his nature. And so, set aside the whole question of goodness. If you've got a problem with a self-existing standard, well, then you got a problem with just the concept of the theistic concept of God. And so, again, here's the thing: everyone's going to have something that's self-existent, unless you want to believe that everything popped into existence out of nothing. Okay, if you want to affirm that, okay, I guess you wouldn't maybe have this problem, but I think you have a much bigger problem, right? That's worse than magic. And so every worldview is going to have to offer a metaphysical ultimate. And then when we look at that kind of brute fact, if you will, that kind of stopping point in our explanation, then we assess that. And we say, okay, is God a good stopping point? Does God explain all of this data? Or is he the best explanation? Or is some kind of naturalism or evolution kind of the ultimate stopping point? And we just are going to have to weigh those. But everyone's going to have a self-existing standard, an ultimate stopping point, whether you're a theist or an atheist. And I think what the theist is offering is that God's nature is that ultimate. God himself is that ultimate. He is that standard that grounds goodness. And so I think we would offer that explains a lot more, has much more explanatory power, and actually gives us adequate grounds for grounding morality. And if you're not going to ground goodness in God's nature, then my question is, what's the alternative? What's the alternative? You're going to have to, you can't just shoot down God, but what is your alternative that would be better? All right, I think we've answered another weekly challenge. See you next time.